So, Madam Chair, we're ready whenever you are. Yep. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississauga, the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. City of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the land on which we live. If you could just put your microphone on, no one can hear you online. Sorry.
The more I do this, the more I forget. Okay. So we have a motion to adopt the agenda. It was moved by Brenda and seconded by Barb. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Adoption of the minutes, AFC 8/2023, November 16th, 2023. A mover? Michael? A seconder? Leslie? Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Okay. Okay, so we are here to discuss and get clarification on report CLK 11/2023, which was prepared by the Clerk's Department and was passed by Council November 21, 2023. The report creates sweeping changes and to the committee and board structure in the city of Thorold. As such, it almost annihilates some of the committee and boards, well, committees anyway, and committees in Thorold. So we are here, and we are very fortunate to have the clerk here to answer the questions. I do want to emphasize that the clerk wrote the report, but council passed it, and council is the ultimate authority of responsibility. And I am very thankful that the clerk is here to offer will offer some questions to this report so that we can best understand it, because I do not understand it even though I have read it several times. So we're going to start the questioning to the clerk. The other thing I want to say is the clerk is a senior member of the city staff, and we must provide utmost respect to the position of the clerk, so we must ask our questions in a very polite and respectful manner. So before I start the questioning to the clerk, Brenda Bader is going to ask the first question, and is going to ask the first question to our city councillor and our representative on this committee, Councillor O'Hare.
Councillor O'Hare, many lifetime and long-time residents of Thorold volunteer and provide unpaid countless hours to serve on Thorold committees and boards, providing many activities enjoyed by the residents in Thorold and throughout the region. They also provide advice on many matters to the City Council, as well as being the community ears for the Council. Councillor O'Hare, why did you specifically and the other Council members unanimously pass report CLK 11-2023, without any prior consultation and total lack of transparency, even when the report was passed.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And Brenda, thank you for the question. I'll try to answer it as best as I can. First off, I guess I'm going to say when I read the report, and I read the report quite thoroughly, I personally thought that there were changes, obviously, but I didn't realize that the changes were so drastic that it would stir up such debate and emotion around it. So as far as that goes, I can say that as a counselor and a new counselor, I will publicly admit that I erred in not pulling this report so that we could discuss it further. I have to honestly say that I didn't think what I found in the report, I found well researched as well as backed up with other practices from other municipalities. And I understand where the city is going with this report. Mind you, some of the things just in the report just illustrate how items get shifted into different areas. And I'm speaking in direct relationship to budgets, for example. So budgets are not taken away, they're just moved into another item line. I think the biggest error, and I can only speak on my part, not other council members or the mayor, is that we did not pull this and we did not discuss it, and that we did not approach our committees to share it with them as well. So as we go forward, as I go forward as a counselor, this is something I have to make note of. I have to live and learn. This is a new experience for me, and hopefully an item like this won't occur again where I feel that I dropped the ball. So that's my perspective on it, and I hope that answers what you were asking me, and if not, please redirect your question and I'll try to provide further an answer.
Brenda, any further comments?
Can I hold my comments for now?
Yep, we can ask questions, and then I'm going to give everybody 2 or 3 minutes at the end to make any respective summary comments that they want to make, okay?
Then I will hold my comments to the end. Thank you so much.
Okay. I just want to thank Councillor O'Hare for his frankness and honesty. I just do want to point out that although Councillor O'Hare may be a new councillor, we have an experienced mayor, we have an experienced former mayor, and we have several experienced councillors on the council. So we'll leave, that's the question there, we'll leave it at that. So, to the clerk, this is the first meeting that you are present to explain this report. Is that correct?
I believe it's the first meeting that you've had since the report, yes?
I mean to any of the committees and boards affected. This is the first public, this is the first committee that you have provided public input on your committee report.
I don't know if I would say that's true. I've attended a couple of the committee meetings. Some of the committees didn't have any questions. Some of the committees that are no longer committees, we spoke to via email or reached out to over phone. This is the only committee that has requested me attend to answer questions to it at this point. And for each committee that was affected, a memo explaining the position and the impact on the committee was provided to the committee.
Okay. Okay. Leslie would like to make just a comment on that.
So He turned it on for me. Back in 1980 in Thorold, there was a project that was being considered for a hazardous waste site at Walker Brothers Quarries. And I attended that meeting, the open house where the proponents had all their information. And what you said just brought up the comment that was made back then. The advertisement for the meeting was in the Niagara Falls Review, page 17, little box at the bottom of the page. And when there weren't a lot of people there, the answer was, nobody cares. Nobody had any questions. Nobody had any questions. Nobody knew that it was even taking place, let alone the details that might hurt or needed to be considered by the public. And that started my, I guess, being an environmental activist. But I also was hired by the federal government, the municipal government, the provincial government, and the MOE to draw up why and how public participation in communities should take place. And because I started working for the government, there were a lot of people that I had contact with that thought I'd sold out, but I am very diplomatic, and I can see that there are some benefits in all of this. But we're volunteers, and we spend a lot of time on these issues, talking to other people and explaining these things because they don't watch council, they don't know about reports that are being sent around and agreed to. So the answer, nobody really had any questions, really bothers me. And I wrote highly and about public participation and how it should be. And I thought we got past that. Now here we are, over 40 years later, right back at square one, where something that affects all of us wasn't discussed with the volunteers that are giving their time. And I think that is what has coalesced all the groups and all the committees in Thorold. And it has more to do with not being given the opportunity to discuss it and get some answers.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. I just have one more question about that. On January 24th and January 31st, all of the committees are going to be brought back together for some information sessions. And I understand from an email that you sent me, you have no intentions of discussing this report to the committee members at these meetings. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's not on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. I just need to understand two key facts seem to be precipitated this report. And I just have two quick questions regarding the key facts. They don't need a big explanation. One is the Ontario Superior Court ruled in 2021 that city committee advisory boards are local boards and must therefore follow council procedures, bylaws, codes of conduct, and other legislative requirements. This ruling was based on an issue that, from your report, that occurred in Hamilton. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So did the ruling tell the city of Hamilton, that they had to follow city committee advisory boards, that they had to follow the council's bylaws, codes of conduct, and other legislative requirements? Or did the ruling change council's bylaws, codes of conduct, and other legislative requirements?
Can't fully answer that question because I don't work for the city. What I can advise is the committee in question was not being treated as a local board under the Municipal Act, but what the ruling said is it must be treated as a local board, which means it must follow all of those rules and requirements. So how that affected and how Hamilton implemented that decision in practice, I can't answer.
Well, that is a very critical point to understand, because there's a big difference if the rules were changed and now we were all doing something wrong, or if the city of Hamilton, an isolated city that wasn't following the rules and procedures, now had to adhere to those existing rules and procedures that we have been subject to for years. That's a critical point to understand, in my mind, in your key facts. And it's misleading in your report if you don't understand that distinction. The other one is, following the example of the City of Ottawa, the clerk's office staff took certain corrective measures to assist the city remain in compliance with this ruling after the 2022 election. What were the corrective actions? Was it simply that they had to tweak some of the procedures that they had to follow, that they had to maybe get some of the chairs together or some of the committees together to just, say, we haven't been doing this, we're going to do that. We've been doing 9 out of 10 things per the procedures and policies. We haven't been doing number 10, and we have to do a little bit of tweaking. Or do you know if the corrective measures were as drastic as the corrective measures that were proposed in report CKL 2023? Do you know the nature and the extent and the scope of the corrective measures?
So the corrective measures that I speak of were the ones that I implemented when I started in 2022.
No, I'm talking about the City of Oshawa's corrective measure.
City of Oshawa's corrective measures were far more drastic than what I implemented.
And you can provide a report to that effect, because it's a public report.
It would be on their website. What I have is included in here in my report. They reduced their local boards only to those that are legally required, those being accessibility, community safety and well-being, their French language services, and their planning board. They removed all other local boards at that time for them to reassess their governance structure.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. That's very helpful. And my last question on this is, have any other the municipalities in the Niagara region, and really Ottawa, who took these seemingly corrective measures as you did, Hamilton wasn't following the procedure, so they had to follow them. But is there any other municipality in the Niagara region or in the province of Ontario? I really want to know firstly in the Niagara region that has taken similar measures as in the report CKL 1123.
So all the measures that I've mentioned in here are either in place at other municipalities, and what I can advise is that all 12 plus the region are having discussions through our area clerks forums as to how we can ensure we are following the same compliance. One great example, and I do want to make the statement that I don't believe that these measures are as drastic as they're made to sound to be, specifically being the example of budgets. This is the only municipality that I'm aware of where budgets are assigned to the municipality. Now, there are a couple that do. They're working on correcting that as well, because there's risk associated with that under our insurance policy, and that's where we have concerns with that, and that's why that was put in here. In terms of the rest of the committee, this committee specifically, outside of the budget being moved to community services, still listed under age-friendly, no changes to that. It's still accessible for all age-friendly events and programs that get planned by the community. There's no change to your mandate or how the committee will function.
Okay. All right. So that gives me my next question. So maybe you started explaining it. Can you explain the changes report CLK? But first of all, we do want to know that no other municipality has adopted the measures that you have proposed.
A number of the other municipalities already have them included. So for example, one of the ones that, in terms of corrective measures when I arrived, The clerking of all of these committees were sort of farmed out to the various departments. So instead of a member or representative from the clerk's office sitting in on those meetings, you had staff that were not trained or had the awareness in terms of the procedural bylaw, the code of conduct, or how to even take minutes, were sitting and attending these meetings, taking those minutes. The clerk's office wasn't fully involved. Now, Age Friendly, I still think, had the deputy clerk involved at that time, but all the other committees had other individuals from the city attending those meetings. So those were the corrective measures I put in when I came here. I took all of the committees back and assigned them to our legislative coordinator. So we had somebody that is looking out for things like procedure and appropriateness in terms of the code of conduct. That already happens in other municipalities, so it wasn't treated that way. Similar with the budgets. Budgets were not assigned to committees in other municipalities, and those that have are looking at ways to correct that.
Okay.
Question.
Okay, Leslie has a question.
In listening to your answer, Matt, wouldn't it make sense to train your staff so they have the capabilities to play those roles?
Well, clerk staff are trained, yes, but it's inappropriate to expect an administrative assistant in Public Works to be trained in how to clerk a committee meeting. That's not their role, it's not in their job description, and some of the staff that were put into those positions were union staff, so technically speaking, they're not even allowed to be doing that work, which is why the clerk's office took that back.
Okay, so you may have answered this partially, but I want a little bit fuller answer to this question. Can you explain the changes, report CLK 11/2023, made to the General Committee and Board structure in Thorold, and specifically to the Age Friendly Committee? Can you, specifically, can you address Age Friendly Committee's approval process for budget and activities in 2024? And will the Age Friendly Committee be able to hold or host similar events and projects similar to ones that have been approved in the last 10 years of the committee's existence? And what does it mean that the budget will be moved under their respective departmental budgets? We've been getting $3,000 a year, not that we've been spending that every year. We've been getting that. We present a budget, and then it gets approved, and we have $3,000. We've been having $3,000 to spend in a year. How does that budget process? How will that proceed this year?
So a number of questions there. So the budget has been moved under community services, and there's two different ways to access that. So for example, if the committee thinks that an event should be run, there's two options for that. If you think the event is something that should be a community event ran by the city that the city does annually. For example, the Environment, Climate Change and Biodiversity Advisory Committee is looking at an Earth Day event that they want the city to now run annually with assistance from that committee. If the Age Friendly Committee wanted that, that would be outside of that $3,000 that sits in community services, and your motion would be to council, we think that this event is important for the community, it should be run by the city, and we will be involved in the planning as part of a working group or what have you, and then community services takes that on as the staff responsible for planning community events. For some of your other events that you've ran previously, let's say you've granted some money to the senior center for a speaker series, or paid for funding for some food for another event, or I know there's an example of the movie and pool event that you run each summer. Those will now all be accessed through the community grant program through community services. So the committee itself is not planning and running events. You as individuals in the community working through the senior center, working as a community group, have access to those funds that are set aside solely for age-friendly events. There's an application process, but you can work directly with Dave Baldoni to access that funds to help run those events. So the committee no longer has the structure of having to meet, put a recommendation forward, put it in a budget for council approval. That money is pre-set aside for the committee already.
Okay, so let me understand this. So last year we had, so now I don't have a budget. I'm not going to have an age-friendly budget. Is that
The
right?
committee does not have a budget anymore.
This committee does not have a budget. So if this committee wants to host the NOAA meeting in February at the senior center, for which there's a cost for hosting, if the city wants to do a flag raising and chat bench dedication, if the city wants to do a forum, if the city wants to do Senior of the Year, I have to go to this community committee to request permission.
Nope, sorry, that's not correct, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
so what's the
So,
process?
let's say you would like to do a flag raising and the
Chat bench dedication,
the bench that was dedicated. There was a cost associated with that.
yes.
In that particular case, similarly, this committee would pass a motion, same as you would before. This is something that we'd like to do. This should be an annual event in the case of the flag raising. The bench might be, maybe not, maybe that was a one-time thing.
I don't get it.
You'd pass the motion that we'd like to do this. Council, of course, approves it. The money's right to you. Same it would have been in the previous year. The difference is instead of pre-planning it as a budget ahead of time, it's a, we'd like to do this. Same with some of the other things that you've done in the past. We'd like to host this conference. Excellent. That's something that is a community-based thing that this committee can sponsor and support. There's a fee associated with that. It's just part of your motion. It goes through and you can access those funds.
So, okay, so I have a budget here that I presented, and I know what I want to do for the year, let's say, so I can present all of this in my February meeting, and it's all going to get, and we're going to make the recommendations for all these things, and then it gets approved on my committee, and then council will approve it at its February meeting?
It depends on that situation. So again, this committee, getting back to what should be happening, this committee doesn't spend money. This committee, none of our committees should really be spending money. The community and community groups can be spending money, and that was what the change was made. So the senior center is a group that runs seniors events within the community. I believe some of you are members of the senior center, as an example, or work with them regularly. That continues, but you work with the senior center or as community members to access those funds to run those events. The mandate of this committee has never been to run events. The mandate of the committee is to provide recommendations to council regarding strategy and action plans to elevate the profile and to provide leadership to council in terms of supporting the age-friendly matters in the community.
So you have completely annihilated our committee.
I would disagree. I would
Okay.
say what we've done is we've removed the budget.
Okay. So we can agree to disagree. We do not have a budget. Is that what you're saying?
The
We don't have a
committee-
budget to do the activities that we have been doing for the last 10 years. Is that correct?
This committee does not have a budget.
Thank you. Okay. No, I just have one more thing. What was I had a train of thought. Okay. So all of the wonderful things we've been doing, like, so we can make a recommendation like we did with the signs and wait 3 years to get a report from City Council. So that's what we're reduced to. But we can now make a recommendation that we should have Senior of the Year and let the city take it over. The projects that we have done for the last 10 years, which I have included in the package, will no longer be done. So that, I want everybody to make sure that's clear. And that applies to all of the committees who will not have budgets in Thorold. If you don't tell me that that's a drastic change, that's, okay. So that's good. That's great clarification.
One question. I just wanna-
Leslie has a question.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. To me, as it looks like a make-work project for a group rather than having each one of the committees operate the way we have for years. And it brings up the topic, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. And the other thing is that this community, over and above all other 12 municipalities at this point, is creating partnerships within the community, which helps the politicians. We partner with the senior center in projects that they want to do and projects we want to do, because we're were interested in doing the best for Thorold. You're just making it far more difficult. And if you want volunteers to take ownership for what they're doing and put in the time, this is not the way to do it. To take the money, put it in the pot, and then, even though we've already passed the budget,
We don't have money, Leslie, we don't have a budget, and we can't, all we can do is make recommendations, like the font size, like the city should have Senior of the Year. We don't have any more authority to do anything. Okay, so I'm going to go to some other councillor members who haven't had a chance to ask questions, because I didn't understand that this was that drastic. In fact, I talked to the mayor at the GMM meeting, and he said to me, I thought age-friendly committee is going to be okay. And I replied to him, you passed a motion, you passed a committee report, and you don't even know what it means. So it's obviously he and the other councillor members do not understand the extent of these changes on the committee structure in Thorold. Okay, Michael Hayes is going to be the next person to ask a question.
Thank you, Jean. Just very quickly, the recently council-approved changes pertaining to age-friendly committee states on page 2 of CLK 11/2023 that due to previous changes made by the city, a number, it just says a number could be 2 or 22, it's pretty wide-ranging, a number of committee members resigned due to strict procedures and staff oversight they found to be overbearing and a barrier to the advisory process. My question is, I will direct it either to the councillor who voted in favor or the city clerk who drafted this. Do these changes make our committee, this committee, age-friendly committee, easier to fulfill our mandate, goals, and purpose, or restrict us further in doing what we are voluntarily are here to do? I know the proof would be in the pudding. It's a brave new committee world from what I'm hearing here today. But your professional, personal opinion, is it going to make it easier? Because what I'm hearing doesn't make it sound like it's going to be easier. Or is it going to further restrict us? Either one of you or both of you?
So I can take that, Madam Chair. The individuals that resigned, this was a result of, from their comments, the fact that we were having them stick to the procedural bylaw at that time, and the fact that we were doing things like recording those meetings, putting them up and live streaming them. They had concerns based on that, and again, we lost some individuals for that reason. I would argue that this makes the committee easier to achieve its mandate as it is currently written. And part of this whole process is going forward every term of council, we will present a governance review on the committee structure back to council for council to review and make a determination. What do they need as a council to advise them and to go forward with its strategic plan on a every term basis, so every 4 years? Because the committee structure can and will likely change based on the members of council and what they need. Now, what we've recommended here is the base level of, we think that the committee structure, as it's been left after these changes, are what is recommended by staff to continue going forward, to continue advising council in a way, which includes things like accessibility, diversity and inclusion, age-friendly, road safety, heritage, its boards of management, and then what we've then done is the committees that have disappeared, have completely disappeared. They've been transferred to the liaison group, which allows them direct access to advise staff as it advises council. So,
Respect, Matthew. I do understand that. I was asking specifically to the age-friendly committee.
Yep, and
I hear what you said.
I
will, if I could.
Yep.
Councillor O'Hare, I would direct it to you because you're wearing 2 hats here. Obviously a council member and an age-friendly committee member. Could you answer that briefly or quickly?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, to Michael. I think, of course, like all change, it's hard to see any good in it. There are going to be some learning curves for sure. I think what I feel confident about is that the money that has been set aside for age-friendly will be there. That even though it's not in the age-friendly budget, it's still on a line in the city's budget. And for many of the needs and requirements that the age-friendly group will need the money for, they'll be able to apply either directly to the budget line or to the community grants that are available. So I'm sure, as I started out to say, that there will be a learning curve, and there will be some bumps in the road for sure. But I think that the committee could continue to move forward and continue the good work that they do.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, because I have to leave shortly, may I ask one more quick question? Yep. And this one I'll ask of you, Matthew. You're the one who drafted the report. I noticed that the word risk or words great at risk are used at least 3 times in this document. So my question is, what exactly is at risk? And it appears it's the city at risk, but is that just a compliance risk? What is the risk? Risk is a pretty strong word.
In 2 situations, certainly a compliance risk is one of it. There are fines, there are issues. There's even a notional risk to the members of these committees that might not be fully aware that the code of conduct applies to them. And a committee member says something that might be a breach of the code of conduct, and all of a sudden they're caught up in an investigation, being investigated by the Integrity Commissioner. Because each of you as members of this committee can be investigated by the Integrity Commissioner because you fall under the code of conduct. That's always been the case, but it's never been properly explained to the committee members, which is why we're doing this training in the next couple of weeks to ensure that everybody is fully aware of their role and responsibility as a member of a local board. Okay. So again, that's always been true, but again, never been properly explained. So there's risk associated with that. In terms of the budgetary piece, there's fiduciary risk as well as insurance risk. There are situations where a member of the public attends an event, there's a slip, trip, and fall, and they end up suing the city. The city's insurer may not cover an event run by a committee of volunteers that doesn't go through the insurance policy. It wouldn't necessarily be covered. Whereas if it goes through a community grant program, as approved by and sponsored by Community Services, that risk gets covered by the insurer. Or appropriately through the insurer of the group that's running the event, depending on the situation.
Okay, now just very, very quickly, with non-compliance, there are hundreds and hundreds of municipalities in this province. Mm-hmm. So who's the great oversight? Who's that heavenly body who would drill down to the city of Thorold to see that we are or are not in compliance?
So for us, it depends on the situation. So in terms of compliance with the Municipal Act, city staff are looking out for that. The Ombudsman's office can come in and provide or answers to us with regards to, say, an session meeting. There's an example where they would get involved. If it involves,
how would they know that, though? Is that some member of the public, like the Ombudsman?
Yeah, a member of the public reports.
They're not doing
it to
this
them.
as a regular procedure.
No, they're not watching out, but
so they're like a watchdog. Obviously, that they would have to be alerted to a risk and then act upon.
Similarly, with the code of conduct, any issue under the code of conduct, if there's a complaint, which can be made by anybody, that goes directly to our Integrity Commissioner, who is the city's Integrity Commissioner, and they then conduct an investigation to review whether or not there was.
And in the last 10 years, how many of these risk issues have been investigated in the last 10 years?
I couldn't answer that question, and that's not my role.
In the last 2 years?
My role is to recommend to council how to mitigate risk based on what is happening in the province and legislation.
Well, you can mitigate risk of getting in a car accident by not driving a car, but you have to assume reasonable risk in life. That's what I want to do. And what is reasonable risk? Okay, so I'm going to let the other committee members who haven't asked questions ask questions. Barb?
Yes, thanks. I had a question. Both the clerk and the councillor mentioned that you can apply for community grants. Not sure if you're aware, but I checked the city website, and the application for 2024 funds was due the last Friday of November at 4 p.m. Not accepted. So this means the report was passed on November 21st. The deadline was 3 days later on November 24th. it allowed no time for anyone to apply for grants because we didn't even know about this until now. So my question is, how do you get community grant money for 2024? How are we, you say we have money, but we can't access it. And even the community, like if seniors wanted to get some money for an event, they can't access it now because it's too late.
So I can advise that, Madam Chair, and what I would recommend in that situation is, because this money is a little bit different, the situation is a little bit different, you'd just be working directly with our manager of community services or community services staff to access those funds. The form is there just to formalize the collection of data. But the form itself, I can't speak to the deadlines that they have for other community groups, but specifically for the age-friendly funds, those would still be available to you.
Be different than
That's correct.
the norm. Okay.
I believe I was sent a message saying that it was extended, and there was no reference of when it would come into effect again, but the November 30th date was extended until your meetings were over, is the impression I got. But we're in the same situation. So is everyone else. We work hard to get our forms in on time, and then nothing.
Okay.
And I wanted to make a presentation to council. I'm still waiting for information back about that. I attended here and nobody showed. So, it's
Okay.
everything else has been working except things that are connected to this report.
We will be able to make summary comments at the end. I want everybody to be able to ask a question. Okay, so, and I did not get any letter about community grants or anything, obviously because I don't have a budget. Okay, Joey, what are your questions? Do you have a question? No. We can't hear you.
Sorry.
Okay.
I don't have a question. The questions that I had, I think, have been answered. Not necessarily to my liking, but I still don't understand. I feel like we're being penalized, that we've done something wrong, and I don't think we have. But I hope we can move past this, and as Councillor O'Hare said, it's a learning curve. So I'm hoping that the dust will settle and we can move forward. And I'm hoping, since we now have to ask for money through this community system, that we're not going to wait 3 years like we still are waiting for an answer from City Hall about font size.
But it doesn't matter. Even if we ask for money, we don't have any authority to have an event. Is that not correct, Clerk, Mr.?
So the committee itself is not running events and never truly was, didn't have the authority to do it to begin with. The money is set aside to help fund those events for the community and for those community initiatives, and that's what it's there for. But the committee itself never truly had the authority to run an event.
Okay. I'll make my comments at the end. Joey, do you have anything else?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anise, do you have any comments?
I had questions, but so far I got the answers. But again, it's very, very hard to work differently as this committee has been working since last 10 years and the contributions and everything. So this is a difficult time for the committee. There is no doubt about it in my mind. Thank you very much.
Okay. So now we're going to be able to make summary comments, and I'm going to start with Michael because he's got to go. I appreciate if the summary comments will last 2 or 3 minutes. So Michael, you've got the floor.
Leaving in 2 seconds. Just as a newbie to this committee, not a newbie to committees. I've been on many corporate committees, academic committees, so I'm very familiar with committee work. I don't sense, I see a lot of animosity, anger, frustration from this committee. I don't know the other committees. From what I'm hearing is we're one of the first committees, if not the committee, to directly ask for the clerk to be here to address issues. So I don't know how the other committees feel about it. You guys are more in tune with that. I'd like to think that it's not as drastic. You folks have way more experience and you've been doing it. It's adapting to change is always very difficult. No one really likes change, but things change. So my hope would be that we can all move forward with this. As far as the budget goes, I don't think anything from what I'm seeing and hearing will change as far as us hosting events other than the money itself. All I think is that we have to go to this, the committee who would control it. I would hope that they would use our recommendations. They don't know what we know. So I hope they would respect that. And if we ask for money to host the Festival of Lights bus trip or a bench dedication or flag raising or stroll in the park or walk in the park or swim in the park or whatever it may be, that will come to fruition. So that's my hope moving forward, is that things may change a little, but hopefully it's it's not as bad as it may seem at first glance. Okay, thank you very much, and I do have to leave.
Thank you. Leslie, you've got the floor. Summary comments.
Yeah, I know. I talk too much. Friends of Beaver Dams Church community group, before they bought the building from the city for $1, the reason they went into that was because the city managing their budget, they would do fundraising for doing work on that building, and the money that they raised, they weren't allowed to spend. It had to go into the city's coffers, and then they had to ask for it back. It resulted in many of the services that were being done on that building were not paid for months. That our public experience with the city giving out the money the way you're suggesting now, it's a step backwards. There may be a better process, I agree, but I don't think you're going to find that all the committees feel any differently than we do. And that's sad, because that's going to be a controversy. And I don't think the politicians really want a controversy in public.
Thank you. Brenda?
Thank you, Jean. I'd just like to make a statement. My name is Brenda Bader, and I'm the president of the Thorold Seniors Association. Throughout the year, last year, our main goal at the Senior Center was to make this center not to be only in the black, but to open it up to all seniors throughout Thorold and the Niagara region. With no money, no help, and being a nonprofit, we had to find ways to increase the revenue streams and increase the membership. It has been a task, and without two things, we would have been unsuccessful in doing what we aimed to do. We did apply for grants. We had a partner, a special partner, not just in business, but in all. But a woman who sits right next to me, who made it her mission to bring all of us together to make the city and the seniors in particular a better place. Without the ability to go to Jean or Jean to come to us with an idea to partner up with all other nonprofits in this area, like TCAG, Thorold Library, and of course with Age Friendly, we would not have been successful as we were this year for the new board. Because Jean was able to assist us financially, no matter whether it was $50 or $200, that money we used made us more money, which enabled us to give assistance to other nonprofits. We feed many families throughout the summer, but that was because of Jean's assistance. We partnered up with so many new associations, including TCAG, and it has been a great experience. But it was because Jean could help us immediately. To take her ability to help us all by having her stipend and ask us to apply to a central location is ridiculous. Who is in charge of making those decisions? How will they allocate that money, and how long will it take us to receive the funds or even find out if we can run the events? We are limited. This stuff may work in Ottawa with other towns. It just does not stand for us here. I'm not sure this is well thought out plan, and I don't like the changes. But our city council majority, who are 50 years and over, voted on it in the dark, voted against the seniors in this town, and never bothered to ask any of us for a suggestion. I guess they do not understand that the best way to communicate is through transparency, which a great way to strengthen ties, but you choose not to do that. It's a sad, sad day for the seniors in this town and for Age Friendly Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Barb?
Thank you. Very well said. I guess my concern is the time, I was in accounting all my life, and the turnaround time. You've just recently done a review of the city, I understand, the staff, and you're way understaffed, apparently. I don't know the number, 24, whatever it was. So now you're asking us to apply to these people who are really overworked to try to get funds. I don't see how that is gonna work when they don't have enough people already, and now you're gonna burden them with us coming to ask. Also, you're saying we still have money and there's a budget line, but if we don't know how much is there, how do we know how to support activities that are going on in the city? So that's just my big concern is how, we're gonna get money to try to support senior events.
Okay, Joey, do you have some final comments? Joey, we can't hear you. Joey, we can't hear you.
Sorry. As was just said, the city staff is already overworked and we don't have enough people in City Hall to carry out many of the items that need to be looked at. If we're not allowed to run events and we suggest an event, that means somebody at City Hall or city staff is going to have to do the event. I really can't see that happening. And if they haven't already partaken in an event, let's say bocce ball tournament or the swim and movie, they have no idea how to run it unless they come back to us for input. So it doesn't make sense to me. We're already experienced over 10 years of doing events. And I just hope that now if we're passing the baton to city staff, that events will still be run and do as well as they have in the past. That's all.
Anise, do you have any final comments?
Yeah, I was just thinking widely, as this committee has got a lot of experience and they have contributed for the cause of age-friendly activities and all different very good stuff. Why not this committee can have a separate process, an additional responsibility, as sort of another process, specifically for Thorold City, so that this committee can be involved and can utilize their experience and skills in order to contribute more towards the age-friendly cause, in addition to these committee responsibilities. Because what I have gathered from the respected clerk that they have certain rules of the game for the committees, but for particular cause of the age-friendly activities, why not we can have an additional or a separate process, which is or a separate sort of a position given to that particular committee, so that in addition to our role for the city, we can also have an additional role to contribute as far as the different events are concerned and involvement of the seniors is concerned. Thank you.
Okay, just to clarify this, everybody thinks we have money. We have money, but we have a complicated process to apply for the money, and then we can't do the activity. So I want to have we want to host an age-friendly forum, which is going to happen even if I have to put money into it myself, at the senior center, of which we're going to hear from the other 12 age-friendly or wellness committees in the region, from which I have not heard that any of their structure has been changed. So I need $250 for that meeting. Matthew, how do I get the $250?
So in that particular case, this committee again isn't running. However, Jean D'Amelio Sawyer or Brenda, representing the Seniors Center, can reach out directly to Dave Baldoni, who is our Manager of Community Services, and say, we're accessing the funds that have been set aside for age-friendly initiatives. This is one that is going. That can come off the balance of what is set as budgeted for that for the year, and then the money can be cut to help support that event.
So I, as a private citizen, not the chair of Age Friendly, can go to Dave and ask for $250 for the forum, and this committee, on the whole, cannot go and ask for $250 for the forum.
At present, this is where the risk piece comes into it. The formalized committee that reports to council cannot be planning and running events. This committees themselves don't run events. Community members accessing funds set aside for the community to run community events can access funds.
To me,
now, this is different for this year. It's the very first time we've set it aside for the events that this committee has traditionally run in partnership with the Senior Center, and you can work directly with our community services staff to access those funds.
This, to me, increases the risk to city that an individual, this council has had agendas prepared, minutes prepared by staff. It all gets, in our case, video streamed. Everything goes through council. Now, I, as an individual, and that poses a risk to council. Everything is approved through council. That's a risk. But now, me as an individual can ask $250 of Dave Bartoloni out of his account, and that's not a risk to the city.
It's not exactly how that is, and that's already how community grants work. Community organizations and groups run by individuals apply to the city through the program to access funds to run a community event.
Okay, I just want one more clarification. Senior of the Year. Who's going to run that this year? So the Age Friendly Committee has done it for God knows how long. Who's going to do a Senior of the Year?
The committee could still run the award and offer an award.
I thought we couldn't run. It's an event with a budget item. I thought we couldn't. Are we going to pick and choose which events we're going to be able to run and which ones we're not be able? It's an event. I thought we couldn't run events.
So the committees themselves similarly have always given awards, but you're correct. Holding it as an event, the committee can't spend funds to run an event.
So how do I get my budget? So this committee can't ask $100, $200 for the Senior of the Year. We're not going to be involved in the process, all the forms and stuff that have to be done to get nominees. So we're not going to be involved in that anymore.
The committee could still nominate somebody, except through the city, same as we have done in the past, and the committee could still go ahead and award the award to somebody with approval of council.
Who's going to run the process, Matthew?
So it's similarly to how events have been. I can't speak to how the event is run. If an event is run to support that, but other awards through other organizations. So if you think, as a committee, the city should be running an event annually to do this, that this should be something that the city should be doing, then you can still do that. Ask the city to run this as an event.
Good. Okay. So the city is going to run Senior of the Year this year, Councillor O'Hare, and Mr. Mayor, if you're listening, and anybody else. And so what we're going to do is we are going to recommend all of these things, and we're going to leave it up to the council and somebody else on community services to run these events. Thank you for that explanation. Now I want to do my summary comments. Okay, Brenda, you got one quick.
I just have a question for Matthew. If we had all these issues, why did you not, or someone, just sit us all down, give us some training so we knew where the risks were? But you didn't do that. You just arbitrarily, along with the city council, just took us out with a swipe with no consideration for the seniors in this town. I don't understand that. I still don't understand that. Why could we not have been trained properly and then explain everything to us, how you were going to do this, and then we would have had this discussion? You went behind our backs. The seniors of this town of Thorold, you went behind our backs and cutting us off totally.
Okay. Okay, I got to calm down. And if I get out of order, you as the co-chair, keep me in line. You have a quick question, please, because I want to do summary.
It's not a quick question. It's the way that you're setting this up is exactly what I ran into over the summer about the garden contest. I was told to make a presentation to council for an extra amount of money, which was only $200. So they would pay for part of the experience, because it's the second year we've done it. The first year, the Thorold Garden Club funded it completely. The second year, I was told by the mayor to just make a presentation. So I tried to do that. I was told, you can't do that anymore, which I've done it many, many years, standing there making a 10-minute presentation about an issue. I was told I had to come to whatever committee it was, and nobody showed up. And then, so I said to the mayor, now what do I do? And he said, you city staff. This was September. We are now in January, almost February. The only response I get back is, could you explain again what the money's for? I've had 3 of your staff ask me to send the same thing. I've sent it, and I still have heard nothing. So that's how everything's going to be run under this umbrella. These changes are going to cause a problem. I've got the example of how they're going to be a problem.
Okay, here's my summary comments. Annihilation of the committee system in Thorold is an understatement. You have completely annihilated the Age-Friendly Committee as well as other committees in Thorold. The Age-Friendly Committee has been operating for approximately 10 years in Thorold. We were one of the first age-friendly committees in the region. We have been an example to other age-friendly committees in the region. We have also, our activities are exemplary. For example, we've done forums with noted speakers like Hazel McCallium. We've had other forums, housing forums. We've had projects. We've had, and I included the list on purpose in the package so we can see what has happened over the 10 years. Last year we did a calendar, which I can't tell you how many hours that calendar took, and it was very successful. We have supported activities at the Senior Center, worked collaboratively with the Senior Center, with the TCAG, with the library, all for the betterment of the community of Thorold. All of these activities will not happen anymore. For example, right now, Senior of the Year is on the agenda. Well, what I'm going to recommend is that this committee support that we have Senior of the Year again in the city of Thorold, like we did in previous years. And what I'm going to recommend is, since we have no authority to do activities, that the city be responsible for carrying this out. Because we have no authority to do anything anymore. And this motion report, which was unanimously passed by council without any consultation, is a slap in the face, because it's not only my committee that has done a lot for the city of Thorold, it's the other committees that have done a lot for the city of Thorold. Things were onerous before. We had to provide receipts for everything we did. We had to get everything pre-approved, and the process was onerous. Now they've increased the level of complexity to do anything to such a degree that why would I, as a volunteer, subject myself to this? And I still say, when I have that meeting, the forum, whether I get money or not, is going to happen. And I know that the other age-friendly committees have not been put in the position that we've been put in. And we no longer will be the exemplary committee in the region. So the report is much worse than I do thank the clerk for coming to answer these questions. I can fully understand why the transparency does not continue, because if the other committees really knew that they have no reason to exist in Thorold, but they will find out soon, and and the city will have the consequences. So thank you. I do thank the clerk and for coming, and the answers are worse than what I expected. Councillor O'Hare, I will give you the last word on this agenda item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mentioned earlier that it is tough to be faced with changes. I'm hoping, just as Michael said, that the committee will continue to do its wonderful work. I know that it's very frustrating right now. I'm going to say something about the new staff. We did have the staff review from Deloitte that recommended 24 new positions. We were so understaffed at the city. And in the new budget, I'm hoping that many of those positions will be filled. That'll be determined very shortly. And that hopefully will help alleviate some of the issues that we've had with speeding things through staff at City Hall due to the fact that they were overworked and understaffed. So I'm hoping that'll change. If I can just add one thing, and hopefully Matthew can correct me if I'm incorrect, but I think that what I understand with the Senior of the Year is we can continue to work on choosing a Senior of the Year, do all the work that's involved, but when it comes time to have the presentation, that's when the city staff has to be involved. So all the pre-work to get submissions, nominations, go through the forms and make the selections, that can still all be done by the committee. That's something that, from what I understand, and Matthew, you can correct me if I've erred in that explanation.
So through the chair, that is correct. The committee will still review those. As in past years, the clerk's office will put the application up. We'll collect applications through the city. We will prepare them, put them on an appropriate closed session agenda for members to review, and they can select a recipient.
Okay. Matthew, to the clerk, do you have any final comments?
Just with regards to the budget, really the only other committee that's impacted by this is the Heritage Committee, and practically speaking there are no changes for them because the budget was already sort of with planning. It just now sits with planning as opposed to having full control by them. this is your committee is the one that actively used a budget more than any, so you were, impacted by the budget more than any of the others. There were some committees that were dissolved, but the members of those committees still contacted by the city through the community liaison process to allow them to still. So.
Okay. Justin, do you have any comments?
I do not have any comments.
Okay, does anybody, I think we've had a full discussion. Does anybody have any final comments, or are we going to end this right now? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for answering our questions. Okay. There was no 6.2 on the agenda. This was not a correspondence issue. I will apply to Dave for the $250 and see what happens. That event is going to be hosted at the Senior Center, and it's going to happen no matter what. New business. Review of the 2023 budget activities. You've got a list of what we did last year, what we spent, and it's probably the last time you'll see that. Okay, age-friendly activities over the last 10 years. Those are all the activities that aren't going to be happening anymore. Senior of the Year Working Group. We don't need a working group. The city can take over Senior of the Year. And AFC C2 2024 committee schedule meeting. Do we want to pass that one? I don't know if we have. I don't know if there'll be a committee, but do you want to pass that one anyway? Like, who gives a damn? We'll pass it. Can I have a mover and a seconder to pass? What were the dates, Justin? Please explain to me what the dates are for our committee meetings. I know I have it somewhere in here. The meetings are January to June. Nothing. Oh, thank you. Why wouldn't there be a January meeting?
We're in January now, so it's not.
Okay. Let's. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that report on the committee dates? Barb will move it. Brenda will second it. Any questions? Okay. Can I, all in favor? Is that passed? Okay. Okay. Round table. Do we think we've had enough for today? Do we need another round table?
Yes, but I think that going forward, I don't know what's going to happen going forward, but there's got to be transparency here. If we're going to be a committee for the city of Thorold, whatever you want to call us, you need to tell us what you're going to do before you do it, and let us at least have a voice. It's like we're cut off because we're senior citizens. That's how we feel, because it's being done by people much younger than us.
Okay. Upcoming and outstanding items. Justin.
Sean Dunsmore.
Is it a ditto report?
Sean Dunsmore advised that it's still in progress.
Okay, so it's a ditto report. That's going to be our role in the next year. We're going to be making recommendations, and we're going to get ditto reports for the next year if we continue. Okay, at least we're laughing. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Brenda and Barb, all in favor? Thank you. It's good to